few months ago, several months ago, I guess I was introduced to Chris and asked to be part of the party. And I was one thing I had to say is I want to meet this guy that everyone's been talking about. So when I met him at a rally in Nordine, it's like you got to look somebody in the eye and make sure he's the real deal. And I got that sense that day that this is someone I could get behind and really support wholeheartedly. And I want to thank him publicly for allowing me to be part of the team, because it's been a great experience and it's been phenomenal at the doors and talking to people who really want to change. But Chris, we thank you for your time, and you're busy traveling all over the province, looking after your own riding, looking after the candidates. So we appreciate your time coming over to Miramichi today, and it's been a pleasure knowing you. So good luck and take it away.
Well, I trust everybody's having a good day. I know I just had a good meal, as did everybody else. Of course, now we're kind of doing this whirlwind leaders tour over the last week. I didn't know I could cover so much ground in so little time, but we've been everywhere from Dalhousie to Plaster Rock, Woodstock, St. John, and the tour will continue. Always a great pleasure to be in the Miramichi. I always say the Miramichi, honestly, is kind of like my second home. I've never actually lived here, but every time we come, we just have such a great time with you folks. And I don't know, I sense really around the province and really here in the Miramichi, there's a growing momentum that is building with the People's Alliance Party. And I think it really boils down to the message that we've been driving home. And, you know, when you talk about the message, I'm going to just briefly talk about a few things here relating to the economy, because I know this is a Chamber of Commerce meeting, but we'll do questions and answers after. So if anybody has any questions relating to something else, I'll certainly do my best to answer the question. But good to have Terry here, of course. Our other candidates, Art O'Donnell, maybe give a wave there, Art. And Michelle is with us. And these folks have just been working non-stop, you know, getting the message out door to door, everything that it takes to be a candidate and to be a successful candidate. So I can tell you that as a party, and again, I don't want to get into the whole thing of when we were formed, but of course it was back in 2010, over the lack of representation that we see with the current two parties in government. And what we are gearing towards is really giving people their voice back in government. And it doesn't take a political scientist to figure out today there's a huge disconnect between government and politics and the average person that lives and works in New Brunswick. There's a huge disconnect. And if you don't have to take my word for it, just look at past voter turnouts. When you have, you know, 25, 30, as many as 40% of the registered voters choose not to go to the polls on election day, that should wake us all up that we have to do better in getting people's voice back to government. Because the biggest thing you'll hear from non-voters is they'll say, well, why would I bother voting? They don't listen anyway, right? And that's the frustration among the public. That's what we are here to change. We want to make sure that our MLAs represent the people that elected them, because somewhere down the road, our electoral system and our government system is gotten backwards, where it got to a place where, you know, we MLAs, good, well-intentioned, good ones, would go to Fredericton, get the direction of Fredericton and take it back to the local areas, rather than, you know, getting the direction from the local areas and taking it to Fredericton. So we want to get that right and make sure that people have their voice heard back in the legislature, back in government. Now, with that representation, we also realize New Brunswick is facing some very, very serious problems. Fiscally, in healthcare, in education, infrastructure, social programs, you name it. Everything is in a real, pivotal moment of needing change, or something has to be done with the system. I was talking to a nurse here, I think it was about a week ago. She stopped in the office confidentially. She works at the Dr. Everett Chalmers Hospital in Fredericton. And she was telling me the story of the overcrowding at the hospital and the seniors that are living in the hospitals that shouldn't be there in the first place, and how it's putting a strain on frontline service. And she told me how many days what they will do at that hospital is they will take, you know how when you go into a hospital and you go to a certain floor, a certain ward of the hospital, they'll have these little waiting rooms with the TV and, you know, the chairs in there, and you can kind of go in there with the family. If you're in visiting family, you go in the waiting area and kind of relax. She said it's gotten so bad that they've taken the chairs and the TVs out, they've put a curtain down the middle of the room, and they're literally wheeling people into these just four walls. I mean, she said there's not even anything there. There's no oxygen, there's nothing, you know, that we can use in event of, you know, if they code or if there's an emergency that have to help, they have to wheel them to an actual room to give them the needs, to meet their needs in a different room. I was floored. I mean, I hear these things anecdotally, but to hear it from people that work the front line, it's unbelievable how bad our healthcare system has gotten. And I said before, you can't blame the nurses. She was stressed out. She was telling me, because she said, we need more resources. We need to get the seniors into nursing homes where they belong, where they need to be, and we need to get more nurses in the hospitals and doctors to help ease the strain on the system. I can talk to teachers, same thing. You know, the frustration is palpable. So we have to, I believe, get government back to a place where government governs. Quit worrying about the other stuff, worry about the important stuff, our healthcare, our education, our infrastructure. And in part of that is making sure that we have proper fiscal management. We cannot continue to run deficit after deficit after deficit and expect our current system to change or expect our future to be any brighter than it is today. Now, I got a good chuckle, I don't know about you, but when the current government come out and waved their magic wand and pulled the money out of the hat of $67 million surplus, remember that one? Isn't that great? You know, just so happens to be an election year, mind you, but they magically found $67 million. I think it might have flowed from Ottawa, but hey, that's just me. But regardless, I said, you know, we've raised taxes, the government has raised taxes over 10 times in the last 4 years. They brought in almost $1 billion in additional revenue. And I'm thinking to myself, if you can't balance the books and run a surplus with that extra revenue coming into government, you shouldn't be running a hot dog stand, let alone the provincial finance. So we must get our fiscal house in order. We have to make sure we stop running deficits. We have to make sure that the debt we have, we are paying it off as we, you know, get the surplus going. We have to build our economy, because as much revenue comes in, we have to use it for services and make sure that everything balances out. So I can tell you that our first priority will be to make sure the government is fiscally responsible with the tax dollars that all of you pay. We will do that by eliminating large corporate handouts. Nothing frustrates me more as a taxpayer, okay? Not as necessarily a politician too, but as a taxpayer, to read in the paper on the front page of how, you know, government is handing out $9 million to TD Bank, you know, one of the most profitable corporations in North America, and they're taking our tax dollars in a bid to create jobs, or Bell Canada or some other corporation. What we want to see is an end to those types of corporate handouts, a scaling back of those corporate handouts, using a portion of it to help the struggling businesses that are here now. Why are we trying to bring new businesses in when we've got current businesses that would hire more employees, invest in their companies, if only they could get some hand up from government? That's what we have to focus on as a government. Because I believe if you get the local economy going, the doors will open so outside investment can start to pour into New Brunswick. And you have to have a fair tax system. You cannot charge things like a double tax and expect businesses to come to New Brunswick and grow, because it just won't happen. So we said, look, we've got to eliminate the double tax. Excuse me, can I get a glass of water? Maybe someone, thank you very much. we have to eliminate the double tax. And people say to me, well, what are you going to do if you eliminate the double tax? The government will lose so much revenue. And my answer is simple. I believe a couple things will happen. Thank you. I believe, first off, by eliminating the double tax, you will get outside investment that will come to New Brunswick. Because I talk to investors outside New Brunswick, they simply refuse to come to New Brunswick with the current tax system. Because why would they come here when they can make more profit somewhere else? So they take their money and they invest it somewhere else. So we will get outside investment, but just as importantly, we're going to help the businesses that are here and trying to grow and want to invest back in their companies. The double tax is truly unique to New Brunswick. We're the only province in Canada that does it this way. And not only would eliminating the double tax help businesses, but just as importantly, it's going to help tenants that rent. Because we've also committed, by eliminating the double tax, to make sure some of that profit trickles down to people on the ground. We've said we're going to freeze rental rates by law for 3 years. So if you rent an apartment, we guarantee you under this plan, your rent will not go up for 3 years. So everybody can benefit, both the businesses and the people that rent and that live day to day here in the province. I believe another important thing to a vibrant economy is accountability and transparency. I believe it's also critically important to know what government programs work and what government programs need to be put in the trash bin. You know what I'm saying? The only way you're going to be able to do that is not by having some political party go in and sit in committee meetings and scroll over a bunch of numbers that half of them don't even know what they're reading. What you need to do is you need to give the Auditor General, which is fully experienced, qualified, and equipped, all the money and resources she needs to fund her office, get the accountants, get the auditors, scouring through paperwork, doing the investigations, doing the research, and filing reports with New Brunswick. Our Auditor General is it is the lowest per capita paid office in Canada. Think about that for a second. The Auditor General, who is a friend of the taxpayer, a true watchdog for the taxpayer, is per capita the lowest resourced Auditor General in Canada. So how can we expect any type of accountability or transparency with that type of system? So what we have said, her office currently brings in approximately $2 million a year that's allocated to her. We said we're going to double it. We're going to give her $4 million a year, and if she comes back and she says, I got a lot more work to do, I'll need another 2, I'll give her another 2. I will give her whatever she needs in her office, because I'm convinced every dollar you give to the Auditor General will return 10 back to the taxpayer. I believe it should be up to the private sector and the free market to create jobs. It should be up to government to get out of the way to let them to do it. That's the key. We do have lots of ideas on healthcare, education. We've talked about even simple things like annual vehicle registrations. Whatever we can do to keep more money in your pocket, because every dollar in your pocket is worth much more than a dollar in the government's pocket, where it oftentimes gets wasted and misspent. So building the economy is about keeping more money in your pocket, which you will in turn spend on the local economy to get businesses going. That's a small snapshot, I guess, of our economic thinking, some of the plans that we want to implement for New Brunswick. And I think, based on all the purple shirts I see here today, I don't have to convince you that we got to get away from the red and blue. I think that ship's already sailed. But look, folks, I've said before, we really have a pivotal moment here in time in political history to make a change. And I'm so thankful for your support and your opportunity to do that here in New Brunswick.
Okay, I'm Art Vidal, Southwest Miramichi Bay Bin. Chris had all the policies. I'm not going down that road. What I wanted to tell you was a little story about stopping in and talking to a person on the road the other day, and they said, you know something I've noticed that I'm baffled about? They said, you have your big 4x8 signs out everywhere, and you have yourself and you have Chris, and it's confusing everybody. Why do you do that? And I said, maybe you should think about why the Conservatives and Liberals don't have their leaders on their 4x8 signs, and we do. Because we are a good team. We are a good team. We've got two other great team members in Miramichi ridings, and we're going to be carpooling soon.
I want to thank everybody for coming, the Rod for putting this on. I want to thank Terry and Art for coming up and joining our riding. We make a great team together. We're constantly back and forth on who wants signs and covering each other and looking out for each other. There are a couple of great guys in our riding, and we have a really good team, and I want to thank my team who was behind me and started me into this. And they've been doing They're there for support and guidance in this whole thing, and I want to thank Chris for coming up and sharing this day with us. We have him for the whole day. We'll be at the park at 2 o'clock until 4. We're going to have a free barbecue up there, so you can text and share and let everybody know where we'll be. And we have our supper, the turkey supper tonight, and all our candidates are going to be around, so you can come and meet us, and we're more than welcome to answer any questions, and everybody, all of us are personable and more than welcome to meet you all. So thank you all for coming today, and the purple wave is growing.
But when it's all over, you're four of us to get together.
So today I just want to just reiterate some of the plans. Now Michelle, the candidate here locally, has been, I know, working in the crowd and getting around talking to people. She has some handouts. If you haven't got a handout yet, please see Michelle, because we have our points and our ideas on here that we're looking to implement into government. We also have Art O'Donnell, I think, is here somewhere. I think Terry was here. He had to skip out for a bit, but I'm sure he'll be back. But we really want to get government back to a place where it works for the people again. You say, well, how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to do that through a tax reform system, first and foremost. We have to get our fiscal house in order, and that's one thing that we are gearing towards, so that the people of the province pay less taxes, and people that are not paying their fair taxes, like large corporations, start paying a fair and reasonable tax rate to make sure that the system is balanced for the people. We also want to see an end to corporate handouts, see a delivery of subsidies to small and medium-sized businesses that are currently in New Brunswick, so that they don't have to suffer under the undue burden of taxes and oftentimes a low market in the private sector. So to give them a little bit of a hand up to do what needs to be done to see their businesses prosper and grow.